All right, good morning, everybody. Thank you guys for coming out and joining us for the second series of our APHA Know Before You Go session. For those of you who joined us the first session a couple weeks ago that Brandy did, you might remember that it was kind of a general overview of APHA, what the conference is like, what you can expect your first time going there. It is a very large conference. You're going to see thousands of people there. And so that can be a little overwhelming. So the first session was talking about how you can kind of get around APHA, things that you need to be doing in advance of APHA. The session that I'm going to be doing for you today is about networking. So if you missed that first session that Brandy did, you can actually go look that up now on the College of Public Health's new YouTube page. And so that YouTube page can be accessed by going to youtube.com, go to the search bar, you can type in UKY CPH, all one word, UKY CPH, and then click on the channels and you'll find it there. It's a relatively new site. It's only been up for a couple weeks. I think that presentation that Brandy put up was the first one that was on there. So I think there's only 2 videos, so you might have to scroll for a second to find it since there are not that many users who've accessed it just yet. Okay, so with that said, again, APHA is a huge deal in terms of the number of people that show up and actually attend the event. Thousands of students, thousands of practice professionals, thousands of faculty members from across the country, different institutions and organizations. Some of the heavy hitters in the public health world are going to be there at APHA, and they make that a priority every year. So why is networking an essential function of this? Well, because at a professional conference, you're going to come across many outstanding opportunities to meet people and to network with individuals. They're ideal places for you to meet people. Or if you are coming to us from another institution where you did your undergraduate, it's a great place for you to catch up with people that maybe graduated and are now working in practice, or for other students who have gone on to other institutions to kind of keep those relationships alive. So, or if you plan it right, APHA could be a place where you actually introduce yourself to and meet your future employer someday. So with those things in mind, here are some tips that will help you kind of navigate APHA from a networking perspective, according to a recent article that I came across on salary.com, and have it linked at the end of the PowerPoint. So again, if you all have any questions on anything, or you would like a copy of the PowerPoint, feel free to either stop by my office in 118 or send me an email, and I'll gladly send you a copy of the presentation. So the first thing that you need to do when looking to network at APHA is kind of plan in advance. So target people or prospects that you would like to come in contact with at APHA so you can kind of make that happen. Some conferences, not all of them, are going to publish a list of attendees in advance of the event. So, and with APHA, I don't know if that's possible. I've been searching for one, but I haven't seen an entire list, and maybe that's because of the massive number of people who will actually be attending APHA. You're going to probably see in excess of 15,000 to 20,000 people at this event. I hear the record is over 30,000 people who came into town a few years ago for an APHA conference. So they're probably not going to publish everyone, but if you're looking at other conferences in the future, whether that's KPHA or something else, try to find the list of attendees in advance. Get the list, look it over, see who's there, and that'll help you start to target people, and you can try to find those people in advance and set things up. Make sure that you target sessions or groups, because the spirit of APHA is that people are going to be doing poster presentations based on abstracts that they've submitted. They're going to be doing sessions about hot topics in public health right now and all the different areas and concentrations. So there is a list currently available of groups and sessions that are going to be taking place with the exact schedules, the dates and times for those sessions. So you can actually find those online now and start to kind of plan your days out, and as opposed to just showing up and kind of working through the motions. So make sure you target sessions or events that the people that you want to talk to are likely going to visit, or maybe they're presenting at. You may even want to contact them before the conference and arrange to get together while the conference is being held, or you can try to connect with them and do what's called an informational interview. And so that's not an interview like you're interviewing for a job. It's very similar, where you reach out to the individual, but you're trying to find out more about them, or the organization that they're working at, or a particular cause, or grant that they're working on, something along those lines that might align with your interests. So you can try to get it to ask them questions about how they got to where they are, what their interests are, hot topics, those kind of things. Advice on how you can get into a similar setting that they're in. Next tip that you want to kind of think about is With the size of APHA and the number of people and vendors and schools who are there trying to recruit people or future employees, you're going to see a lot of giveaways and a lot of free things, a lot of food, candies, that kind of stuff. So what you need to try to do is keep your hands free while you're at the event. So easy way to do that is, instead of walking around the session hall, the grand hall with your hands full of food and stuff, carry an organizer, carry a portfolio like the one you got when you first came to CPH. Keep in there all of your important documents or anything that you pick up that you want to keep it organized in there, instead of walking around with a handful of papers or a plate full of food. Although it sounds simple enough, lots of people either don't think about it or they ignore the fact that it's hard to handle food and papers and stress balls and all those kind of things, and carry a plate of food while you're walking around trying to meet people and introduce yourself and shake hands and exchange cards with folks. So, and with all the people who are going to be there and the large crowds that you're going to see and people trying to get to know each other, you want to try to be remembered, but you don't want to be remembered as that person who dropped a plate full of food on the floor or dropped all of your papers and sent those flying. So try your best to avoid that. Another thing that you want to try to do is you want to try to take ownership of the room, whether that's in a session or in the grand hall. Try to own the room. One way that you can do that is try to be early to your session. If something starts at 10 a.m., try to show up 20 minutes early or so. That'll help you feel more comfortable as the crowd starts to build for the room. And this can be especially helpful if you're shy when you're getting to know new people. It kind of can give you a sense of control that maybe you own the room if you're there first. Trust me, I know this next one from experience. I know how hard it can be and how intimidating it can be for you to try to get to know people. But what you really want to try to do is in a large room full of people, you want to try to avoid becoming the wallflower in those situations. Because if you're doing that, not only are you not meeting anyone new, but others might think that you're not worth getting to know because you're not putting out any effort. So if you're that person who's standing in the back of the room and kind of kicked up on the wall, hanging out, arms crossed, just kind of looking around, you're going to be that person that people think is unapproachable. So if that's the case, they're not going to make an effort to kind of come out and get to know you. So try your best to avoid that. When you're starting to engage people and get to know people and talk to them about different things, try your best to keep the mentality that it's about them, not about you. And so what do I mean by that? Have in mind the goal of trying to build a few high potential relationships instead of just throwing your card or your documents at everyone. So focus on the quality of the contacts that you're making as opposed to the quantity. You can meet 200 people at APHA, but if none of them are people that goes any further than the 3 minutes that you talk to them in a conference room, that doesn't do you any good. The best way for you to show interest in the people you meet is, instead of trying to sell yourself at every opportunity, show interest in them. You can offer to provide some information that's helpful to them later, whether it's going to be at the conference, at another session that they're attending, or by connecting with them down the road. So in the meantime, you need to try to make sure that your conversations are about them and not about you. Don't offer a business card until you've established a relationship that you feel comfortable with and that you feel confident in. So, and always keep in mind that just a little bit of sincerity is going to go a long way when you're trying to get to know someone and build that trust. Another thing that's going to help you build that trust and be a little more sincere is if you try to avoid autopilot. So at a conference, it's not necessarily that place where you'll hear the phrase elevator pitch, which is a really quick pitch that you try to give someone if they walked into an elevator and you only had a short amount of time to kind of sell yourself to them. It's not necessarily a place for an elevator pitch. Doors aren't suddenly going to open at APHA for you. But you just need to think of it as you beginning a dialogue or starting conversations with people, not doing a presentation to individuals. Okay? Try to adapt and change what you have to say about yourself and your experiences so that they're appropriate to each individual discussion that you're having. There's only a small amount of time that you're going to have with each person while you're down there at some of these events because of the structured schedule of a lot of these things. So you want to make sure that you're not chit-chatting or wasting precious time fumbling around and trying to find the right things to say to people. So, and kind of going back to the point a couple slides ago, you want to always give your full attention. Have that thought that people that you're talking to are worthy of your full attention, regardless of the title they hold, whether they're a student or whether they're a senior administrator in the largest health department in New York City. While it should go without saying, it should be common sense. If you're talking to people and you're trying to engage them one-on-one, and you get caught, one-on-one, and it's a rather large room, and you keep looking around and trying to eyeball while this person is talking to you and telling their story to you, and you're glancing sideways and trying to make that next connection from across the room, and ear hustling other conversations so you can try to find out who's from where, and so you might want to talk to them instead. Don't do that, because people can pick up on that kind of thing, and if they do, it can be really off-putting and can come across as being unprofessional. So if you find yourself in one of those situations where the conversation just isn't going as well as you hoped it would, then what you can do is simply tell that person that you've enjoyed talking to them, wish them success, thank them for their time, and then you can move on to the next opportunity. But it is important for you to remember that even though someone is a student today, you never know what they're going to end up doing, and all it takes is one time to rub the right person the wrong way to lose a potentially invaluable networking connection. Remember that it's all about your attitude and your body language as well. Your posture, your movements should be confident, and they should be relaxed. If you smile and look friendly, you'll be approachable, and you'll be welcome when you get to try to go up to talk to others. People want to talk to a smiling face. They don't want to see someone who seems stern and is kind of got a frown on across the room. So, and if you're in a setting and the person you want to talk to is already engaged in conversation with someone, you want to wait till that conversation finishes on its own before you go and throw yourself into the middle of conversation and try to interrupt what's going on. When you're meeting people and you shake hands for the first time, and you want to make sure that you do it firmly instead of coming across as the wet noodle, or instead of trying to break someone's hand. You want to kind of work on practicing that shake. Firm, but not too hard. Always take every opportunity you can to showcase your smarts, whether that's one-on-one or asking questions in a large presentation. You want to try to ask thoughtful questions at these question and answer sessions that are going to follow most of your presentations, or these dialogues that are going to happen after the fact. So you want to try to speak loud, be concise. And it's okay that if it's a controversial topic that you guys are talking about, it's okay if you disagree with the points that have been made, just as long as you're courteous in doing that. We don't all have to agree on everything. There's not always one way and one right answer for everything. So if you do this right, you can impress the entire room. So that's going to be a good thing. Try to be creative, be original, be surprising. Let people see and think of you as an idea person, but you want to try to avoid walking that line of becoming a know-it-all. No one likes a know-it-all. At a session, let's say the person who's doing the presentation is one of the people that you kind of identified as a person you'd like to target and get to know and speak to. You want to try to, again, get there early. But when you get there early, sit where you can approach the podium or the front of the room that they're in really quickly after the presentation is over, which will allow you to begin to engage that speaker about the presentation they gave while it's still fresh in everyone's mind. If it's a really popular session and that person just absolutely gets swamped after the fact, it's okay. You don't necessarily have to connect right there, but you do want to note the person, the discussion, however you can. Make notes on that so you can get back home or back to the hotel that you're staying at, pull out your laptop and send that person an email about the presentation and share your thoughts on it. And if you want to get that message noticed, one thing that you might do is try to enter the name of the presentation that they gave at the session, or the name of their session, put it in quotations in the subject field of the email. That might help you get noticed a little bit more. And try not to send them a book as well. If you send them a 4-page document in an email, they're probably not going to read through that, but a couple of precise sentences, 4 or 5, that kind of talk about yourself and what you thought about the presentation, that's going to go over a lot better. You're going to have people there that you know already, whether it's from UK or other places that you've been. Get a wingman. You might think or find that it's helpful if you go to the conference with somebody that you know. This person can welcome you into their conversations that they're having, and they can introduce you to other people who they know. And so that's really how networking works. You should learn what that person, though, wants to get out of the time at APHA, and try to reciprocate as well. Again, don't try to leech off of them, and just use their contacts. If you know people or you've met people as well that you think might be a good fit for them to talk to, do that. Direct them. Try to connect those people. And keep in mind, 2 people can cover a whole lot more ground than one person can on their own. Try your best to use memory joggers, whether that's to remember conversations or presentations, whatever. Make quick notes on a card or a document if someone gives them to you. If you have trouble remembering faces, keep those notes. Make notes about the person's appearance, so when you get back and it's been a couple of days or a couple of weeks since the conference and you want to try to put people together, you can refer back to your notes because you're going to come across tons of people there. So, and trust me, I know this one as well. In my role in student services, I get someone who comes in and they talk to me for a couple minutes and I don't see them for a long time. But the next time I see them, they remember me and I don't remember them. There's nothing more embarrassing than that, than when someone addresses you by name, but you have no idea who they are or what they do. So try your best to take notes and keep those memory joggers as best you can. You always want to follow up. As you exchange cards with people you want to stay in touch with, try to suggest ways at the time that you can get together again and talk about a topic to correspond with. Send a nice to meet you message when you get home or back to school or back to the hotel, whenever. So you can build on those relationships that you make at APHA through social media. That's a wonderful thing. So you can invite your contacts to share their thoughts and concerns with you on particular topics. But again, remember, you want to help them in ways that you would like to be helped, with useful links and introductions. Give that person as much as you expect to get from them. But overall, just try to be consistent. You don't want to have a whole lot of activity. You meet someone at APHA, you're best friends for 3 days at the conference. There's a ton of activity, and then after you guys leave Chicago, there's nothing. There's a dead period, and you don't talk to them or try to reach out to them again until you notice that they're in a position that you would like at a company, and that company's hiring, and now all of a sudden you guys are BFFs again. So you want to try to make sure that you try to keep a consistent relationship and keep that activity going. Don't let it be a one-way street where you're just trying to lean on them and drain them of their resources. Okay, so with those tips out of the way, we kind of start talking about the details of the conference. And I'm sure that many of you, perhaps all of you, have been in situations before where you've had this forward question thrown at you, whether that's interviewing for programs, your Masters of Public Health, DRPH, PhDs, whatever, whether that's for jobs in retail or whether that's for a professional level job. You've all been asked, tell me about yourself, okay? And that can be a really difficult question to answer even if you're prepared for it, because as much as we know ourselves better than anyone, it's hard to kind of put all those thoughts together and put it out there for someone else, because we don't like to talk about ourselves. But the fact remains that it's one of the most common prompts that you're going to get in any type of interview setting or at a networking event. So you need to plan ahead and prepare ahead of time and try your best to be focused and articulate with your answer to that question. It'll be helpful if you keep it brief. You don't need to go all the way back to the beginning of time. For many of you, 1990, 1989. You don't need to start at the beginning of your work history or with a lot of details about your personal life. In networking situations, you can give a brief statement that describes your professional or your academic status. If you happen to be looking for a job at the same time in your networking, you may want to include a few details about your career goals and aspirations that you have. Try to highlight the best parts of your career and of yourself at the same time. How can you be prepared for that question? The most useful introductions are going to illustrate who you are with your experiences. And to kind of get to that point where you can do that, you want to reflect on these questions. Start with what past experiences, whether they've been paid, unpaid, or academic, that are relevant to your future and what you want to do. And again, when you're looking, I see a lot of people undervalue their unpaid or their academic experience. Employers, most of the time, aren't going to care whether you were paid or not. They want to see that you've acquired a set of skills that are transferable to what you're going to be doing. So whether you've done that as a paid person or as a volunteer, as long as you've gathered that skill set, that's just as valuable to those people. They don't care if you were free help or if you were making $30 an hour doing that. Next, what experiences show that you've solved problems, taken initiative, or overcome obstacles? Because at the end of the day, the last question is, what sets you apart from other people? that they've met or that they're considering for positions. It's important for you to think about and consider the length of that response, though. You don't want to go on and babble about yourself for 5 or 6 minutes, especially at one of these networking events where everyone's trying to get around and meet as many people as they can. An introduction at a networking event or as part of a casual conversation should last approximately 30 to 45 seconds. And you think that's not a lot of time. Well, it's not. But if you break it down into 3 different segments of 15, no more than 15 seconds each, you can kind of master a pretty good response to tell me about yourself. And so you want to approach the breakdown kind of like this. In the first 15 seconds, you want to provide information about you. How do you do that? Well, an example. If I'm meeting someone for the first time and I'm not from Texas, but I might say, hello, I'm Scott, I'm originally from Texas. I moved to Lexington last year to further my education. The next 15 seconds, I might want to focus on information about my education or my experience. So I interned under a public health director at a local health department in Houston, and I decided that I wanted a deeper understanding of public health. So I recently started pursuing an MPH with a concentration in health management and policy at the University of Kentucky. The final 15 seconds, you'll probably want to close with information about your career goals. Well, right now I'm working as a research assistant in the Department of Health Management and Policy at the University of Kentucky. But after I finish and complete my degree, I'd like to work as a policy analyst for the federal government, ideally in work that focuses on issues related to health care, affordability, health disparities. So package that together, you have 3 different segments, no more than 15 seconds each. You're going to come out with that 45 seconds. You're going to be quick. You're not going to ramp. And the best way to get this down, guys, is just practice. Practice that introduction of yourself in a variety of contexts, because again, not only is this going to be useful to you in a networking situation at APHA or KPHA or wherever else you're going in the future, but you're going to hear this question again in the future, whether it's part of an initial phone interview to screen applicants, whether it's part of an interview and it's the very first question that you're going to get, whether it's at a conference, or whether it's getting to know people in your field. So follow that method. You're going to avoid monologues. You don't want to be standing there in front of people talking for 7 or 8 minutes about yourself and kind of lose people's interest in the first 30 seconds. Make an effort to speak deliberately and be confident. People can pick that up. And even if you don't believe what you're selling, if you sell it hard enough, they will. Don't memorize and recite, and try your best to be natural. So another question you might get and another way you might attack it. So tell me, what do you do? You could say something like this. So right now I'm in my first year of a graduate program in health management and policy at the University of Kentucky. I've become really interested in issues of quality improvement, and I'm currently looking for a summer internship that will give me some experience in that area, so I can eventually work as a consultant to hospital systems. Really quick, to the point, you've answered that question perfectly about what you do. They've picked up everything, and they know what you would like to do based on what you're doing now. So, I've referenced a couple of times, at this point, business cards, but haven't quite talked about the etiquette of that yet, so that's what we're going to do next. First thing, do you have a business card? Okay. Even as a student, it's important for you to have a professional means of providing your contact information to potential employers or connections. Make sure that when you get your business cards that you always have them on you, because you never know whether it's at a lunch or at a conference or at a social event when you're going to come across someone who's going to be a valuable contact for you. If you need cards and you don't have those yet, you can always come and see me for instructions on how to purchase officially licensed UK business cards. The university has the logo on lockdown. It is an officially licensed brand, so you can't just go to a printer around town and say, put the UK logo on a card for me, I'd like to do that. They're not going to do it because they could get in trouble for that. So come see me. I have these business forms that you can use to order. I'll sign off on the bottom for you, and I'll give you a copy of my business card so they know that you didn't just print this form out without permission to do so. So that'll kind of authorize the entire process for you. Really quick process, really cheap and affordable, great, $14, $15 investment in yourself, buying a bunch of business cards that you can use for conferences. So the etiquette, once you have the business card and using it at these types of events, is going to be this. Rather than you giving out these cards to everyone that you come across. It's better off if you offer a card as you wrap up conversations with new connections and contacts, specifically those ones that you feel like have gone extremely well and a person that you want to stay in touch with, or that you guys are going to stay in touch as you go forward. In some situations, you're going to come across, such as meetings, everyone that's going to come into the room and they're just going to exchange business cards upon introduction. That's okay. It's rare, but you'll see it. In those cases, try your best to keep those cards out in front of you. If you can, make a quick note on there about people, which you can help refer back to, so you can kind of memorize people's names throughout the meeting and impress them that way. More etiquette regarding business cards. It's polite for you to ask to give or to receive a card. A couple of examples of what I mean by that. Conversation wraps up. It was so nice to meet you. Can I leave you with my card? Is that okay? Or, I'd like to keep in touch. Do you have a card that I could take with me in the instance that you've met someone that you're just truly impressed by and that you want to make an effort to stay in touch with? If they didn't offer it, it's okay for you to ask. If someone offers you their card, it is polite for you to return and give them one back. Now, if you're talking to someone that you meet who's a senior administrator in a place that you want to work one day and you had a fantastic conversation, don't bombard them with your information. You usually want to wait for them to request your card or your documents. Okay, so you've got the business cards, you've exchanged them with people. What do you do after you exchange cards at a conference? Make sure that you've taken notes in order to kind of remember where you are. Again, those memory joggers, where you met, what you guys talked about, presentations, that kind of stuff. But always use these cards that you receive to follow up with new contacts. You can find people on social media now, so you can try to request a LinkedIn connection, which makes it so much easier to stay connected with people. You can see where they are, if they're moving around, projects that they're working on, that kind of stuff makes it super simple to stay connected. You can use the card to send an article that's relevant to the conversation that you had or the discussion that you had, or to send an email to thank them for taking the time to speak with you. Sometimes a simple engagement like that is really all you need. So, other than business cards, students ask me about resumes at conferences. It's okay for you to bring copies or take a few nice copies of your resume with you that are polished and printed out on nice paper and don't get wrinkled in flight and that kind of stuff, or in the van on the way there. But in general, it's typically not appropriate for you to walk around the conference and just be handing out resumes to everyone that you meet or to employers or organizations that you want to work with. But again, it's a good idea for you to bring them and have a hard copy or an electronic version on you that you can print out at the hotel that you're staying at, just in case a conversation goes extremely well and they ask you for it. Then it's okay for you to give that. Okay, so with everything else being said, I'm going to try to summarize the entirety of networking into the final 2 slides of the presentation as networking do's and networking don'ts. We'll start with the positive networking do's. So at APHA or any other conference that you attend in the future, you do want to be genuine and authentic. You do want to build trusting, long-lasting relationships. You do want to develop your goals for each networking meeting in advance. Don't go in and just kind of play it by ear. You do want to visit groups or sessions that spark your interest. Now, this next point, do hold volunteer positions. With APHA, it might be a little too late because maybe they filled everything. Don't know that unless you reach out to them, though. But for KPHA in the spring, or if you're a first-year student and you want to volunteer next year, try your best to connect with students at APHA who serve in leadership positions or on panels. The more that you can be around people who are volunteering, that's just going to provide another excellent opportunity for you to get to know people outside of these sessions. So volunteers usually form a pretty tight-knit group. Do become known as a resource to others, again, not as a person who's just seen as somebody who's trying to use or drain another person's resources. Do articulate what you're looking for and what you do. Do follow through quickly and efficiently on your referrals. Do understand the needs of the people you're networking with and offer value to them. Again, it's about them, not about you. Do try to connect and contact at least one quality connection a day to grow that network, and it's going to start to grow exponentially if you do that. And do, for this last one, go beyond your area of interest. What do I mean by that? Public health can be very siloed. You have H&P, biostats, health behavior, EPI, and Gero, and all these other groups, and so people can tend to want to just hang out with other people who are in their concentration. So branch out, because those people, an epidemiologist that you meet from a health department or somewhere else, even though you're a health behavior or a health management policy person, that EPI person has contacts. They have connections within that health department. So they may, after getting to know you, decide that you might be a good fit for their organization, and so they might be willing to either connect you with the people in their organization who are going to be making those decisions about future hires, or they may know of something that's not posted position-wise, because not every position gets posted, and sometimes it goes through back channels. So just by branching out, you might get another opportunity that you otherwise wouldn't have gotten. Okay? Look at people as valuable. We'll end with the networking don'ts. Don't fear the big shots, y'all. Don't be intimidated by anybody, okay? Most people who are there, just like you, will want to get to know other people and network and try to identify that next star or that next person that they want to join their organization or their university. Don't be afraid of the big shots. They're people just like you, and so they have probably been in your shoes before. They've been at these conferences as a student, so they kind of know where you're coming from. Don't be afraid to go approach people and talk to them. But what you don't want to do is don't corner the heavy hitters and these big shots and give them your entire personal life story if you catch them at a social event or in a group setting. Don't give out those business cards again to everyone. Be selective. Don't just talk to people you know. Don't be that wallflower. Try to branch out, because again, you're not getting any benefit from that. You already know those people. Don't talk to those, don't waste time talking to those people who are meers. So that whole concept of giving more to others than yourself, don't talk to those people who only want to take things from you either. If you're at a social event, nighttime, don't drink too much. You don't want to be seen as a lush or give people any kind of misrepresentation of yourself. Go in with no expectations. Don't expect anything from anyone, okay? Just, again, get to know people. Don't dismiss anyone as being irrelevant. To go back to the last slide about the dues, you never know what student who's coming from Buffalo University or Emory or wherever is going to end up being the greatest person who's ever done anything before. They might become the next president, senator. You don't know that, so don't dismiss anyone as being irrelevant. And never take no personally, because you're not always going to get what you want. Not every engagement is going to go the way that you think it should. So don't be worried, don't be intimidated by that. Don't take no personally. Alright, so if you guys want to refer back to some of the documentation that I've used, you can take a look at these links that I have here. Again, you're more than able to come by and see me at any time. Send me an email. I would love to send you the information that we've talked about today. There is some other information that's available on the career section of our website. If you go to uky.edu/publichealth, scroll over to student resources, drop down to careers. That's where you'll find the job board. You'll find information about networking and other valuable career resources and skills that you want to work on. Resume writing, applications, that kind of stuff. So, again, if you guys have any other questions, let me know. If not, thank you so much for coming out and attending today.